I got a notice that says we're live streaming.
Right.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This is the OpenJS Foundation Standards Working Group meeting on this beautiful November 29th. Thanks for tuning in. So we have a few things on our agenda today. If you wanted to ever propose an item for our agenda, you just mosey on over to github.com/open-foundation/standards and open an issue. So that's where we get these items, and then also sometimes things that I remember that I wanted to tell you all about. So announcements. We want to say have a good meeting to our friends at the TC39 meeting in Spain this week. For those who are attending in person, eat lots of, ham on for us. And for those who are dialing in from the West Coast, I hope that it's not too bad for you, Jordan. Another quick announcement is that on December 13th, the Linux Foundation has a standards related webinar that we're promoting to our projects. It's on antitrust. This is a pretty important topic for those who participate in standards projects in particular, but this is a antitrust laws and open technology project participation webinar with OpenJS's counsel, actually, and Andrew Updegrove will be leading that. It's going to be really, really helpful, I think, for those who are kind of figuring out the what and the why. So we'd love to for you to join us. If you can't make it, that will be recorded. Let's see, other announcements. I guess we are moving into the. So do check calendars for your events, as it's probable some meetings will be canceled during the holiday break. Robin, you got the announcements for us too?
Yeah, we are partnering with the FinTech Foundation at the LF for OpenJS in Finance next week. Many of us are speaking, so that's December 8th in New York. If you go to the Linux Foundation event page, you'll find Open Source in Finance conference, and then of course our Twitter has been promoting all of our great speakers. So I'd love to have you there if you can make it.
That's December the 8th, right?
Yep, next
Cool.
Thursday.
I love that conference because it's in a really cool venue, and the venue space is like this theater space, and so you'll have like the speakers on stage, and the stages are decorated for like whatever show is going on. So it might be like a super dramatic talk as a result of the location. So a great event, and looking forward to seeing folks at the FinOS Summit in New York. All right. Any other announcements that we need to come up with? I think
We have a board meeting on Friday. We're just coming off of one that we had at the Open Source, the Linux Foundation Member Summit, but we'll just be working on approving our budget for next year. We had a working session last year. No big changes, except for next year. I think we're going to be co-locating with the open source summits instead of doing a standalone OpenJS. So those are kind of the big things.
You also reminded me that ECMA's by twice yearly, one of their twice yearly General Assembly meetings is on Tuesday, I think, of next week, Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. It's at like 3 a.m, though, my time. So that's also a probably there'll be some announcements as to new management for next year and things like that. And that's also where they lock in the specs for 2023. So cool. It's fun times at the end of the year, isn't it?
Well, ECMA's spec is locked in the June meeting, to be clear, for TC30.
ECMA script, yeah, and there's some other other standards that get they only lock in the specs during General Assembly. So we'll see what gets released. All right, that's it for announcements, I assume. So we will move into the meeting. We have a couple of open pull requests to add some members, which is one of my favorite things. I have an open pull request for Leia and for Toby. These have been approved by many folks on the call, opened for 21 days, and yeah, none. Are we cool to merge? Cool, great. I'm going to do that. Thumbs up all the way around. Okay. Merge. And as soon as my computer, there we go. Sometimes this is a little slow. There we go. Done and done. We welcome Toby and Leia as full regular members of our working group. All right, next item. So we're talking a little bit about events for next year. As everybody probably remembers, we made a calendar, a public calendar to track events that are happening in 2023 with particularly our liaison organization. So we're helping hopefully to prevent calendar conflicts that arise. So this is just a general reminder to help us make sure that those are up to date. But additionally, we have been approached by a group of folks in the security space that want to pull together a workshop proposal for the W3C in the web application.
Did you say approached or reproached?
Reproached, just kidding. No, okay. Approached. We've been approached.
I heard the same thing.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
No,
please, sorry,
that'd
please
be a
go
funny way to say that we're all in trouble. Just kidding. No, approached by some folks who want to pull together a workshop on security for web application developers at the W3C. For those who aren't familiar with W3C style workshops, these are generally very curated and conversation driven events. So as a result, these aren't big conferences, but rather 100 people or less even gathering together to discuss specific problem spaces and ways in which either open source or community groups or technical working groups at the W3C might respond to gaps or needs and so on and so forth. So this is led by Dan Applequist, who is at SNCC and is the tag chair for W3C. And he's asked us to see if there are some folks from OpenJS Foundation who would like to volunteer to serve on the group to create the call for proposals and put this package together. So request is, simply put, a couple of names from our community who would be interested and obviously have some domain expertise to be able to either author some proposals or to review proposals. Obviously, they're wanting to make sure that this is a diverse group of people. So to the extent that we can help source qualified candidates who are really well representative of our community. So that is, a request. And so the goal would be to have a proposal to the W3C to consider about just after the first of the year, and then we'd work out the timing of like the when, where, that kind of thing. So anyway, that's it. That's the long and the short of it.
Sorry, I missed what the name of this group is, or
the group that's trying to propose. It's not really a group, like it's Dan from SNCC/W3C, Dom from W3C, Krob from OpenSSF, Arnaud from all of the above. So it's just some folks are kind of in a combo of W3C standard space plus security plus webby.
So I'm happy to review anything. I'm consistently skeptical of security recommendations for web, in the sense that they're often inconsistently correct.
I think that makes you a great candidate to participate. So cool.
Is there something in writing we can look at?
Yeah, I can share in our Slack. Actually, I'll do that after this call because I don't want to go dig it up. But it's just I think the group has met a couple of times to discuss and the possibility, and now they want to open conversations up with more folks, and certainly want our group at the table. So all right, so if you think that you might be interested in that, let us know in the standards channel, and we will get you info so you can think about participating and helping out. Antitrust training and and then Robin briefly mentioned in the announcements we want to do. We're doing smaller events in 2023. So one of the questions to our group will be, do we want to potentially ask for some space at one of these smaller co-locations to have a standards working group meeting in person as part of a summit or something.
And if you look at the conference we had this year, we had 2 or 3 tracks depending on the day, and one almost an entire day was sort of standards related content. The way we curated that, we'll have fewer speaking slots this year. We'll have 15, which is still significant, but the question is, do you want to have your own, like a collab summit only in the standards kind of space, or something else?
I'm keen to see us do something. I think it'll kind of depend on what we're able to kind of get done at the end of this year / beginning of next year, and kind of where some of the projects and things that are happening are falling. But I thought the standards track at OpenJS World was a great resource, and I'd love to repeat that in some way. Maybe we can, if it's not part of the event, maybe it's something that we do on a more ongoing basis.
The panel, there was a lot of interest in that panel as well. So are you going to put on something more broadly LF related on standards at the summits? There'll be some stuff that we do which is like ultra broad. So I think there's a lot of room for niche, more specifically relevant to this population. So we've got these tactical things like the antitrust training, I think is applicable to anybody working in any standards project. But then there'll be stuff like the community specification webinar that we just did is relevant to open source people who want to do a project, but not necessarily relevant 100% to the web standards community. So I think there's lots of room to make more specific resources and materials as we are with the concise guide. Cool.
Cool. And then the last thing that's calendar related is, hey, it's nearly the holidays, which is hard to believe. It's like 5 more weekends until next year. My eyes get really big. So December 27th meeting, I think, is for sure canceled. And my next question to this group is if we will have a quorum for December 13, or if people are taking off earlier or, yeah. So maybe let us know, if you plan to attend or plan to be absent rather on December 13th, so we can make a call early to keep or cancel that session. Cool. All right. I think that's it for calendar related. Anything else about calendars? No. Cool. All right. Then that brings us to, I think, the main course, if you will, and that is the concise guide. Let me pull that up because I just realized I do not have it open on this machine. Dag nabbit. Unless somebody else has it handy. Come on, computer. What would I say?
That linked in the issue where Michael.
Oh, it might be.
Yeah, Michael Champion.
Here I'm looking in my
Mhm.
recent Drive docs. There we go.
Michael's comment.
Yep, got it. So I think Leah was going to grab for us, but I'm just double checking here that she doesn't appear to have had a chance to get to it, but she'd given us a approximately 2-week a little bit longer lead time that she needed to pull some examples from the CSS working group specifically to kind of pad this with something tangible. And she's left a couple of comments just around the language. And we wanted to add a flow chart of sorts, it looks like. Does anybody handy with the visuals maybe want to do something graphical for it? I mean, I feel like with a graphic and with Leia's tactical example, we could really tie this up in a bow. We don't have to have a graphical example, but sometimes like people do like the visuals.
Someone can give us chicken scratch and we can have our creative services team fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys do not want my design work. But we could do just do like a rough
A slide or something with some, and then we can make it look,
look pretty, and that could be helpful from just like a circulation, that becomes something you use for like the social circulation.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Cool. Okay. Let me just I could take a stab at that. I don't mind. And then, I also, once we kind of tighten this up a little bit, I'd love to have some friends at MDN too, see if they have some contribution that they would add to this, as well as folks who do a lot of technical writing. Okay. Okie doke.
You'll share with those folks, MDN.
Yeah, so I can share this with, actually I'll do that right now, and get their thoughts. Let me do that right meow. All right, I mean, just drop this into a Slack note with them. Hey, friends.
Awesome.
Yeah. Um,
Right. Right.
would love your thoughts and feedback. All right, cool. Right, so Robin, from like a obviously we need to polish this to, you know, not ready for publication today, but in terms of timing and kind of being able, when would you like to see us launch? What would be it like? Would you rather see this go out before end of year or after? I mean, that's kind of the question.
No, yeah, it doesn't sound like that's possible. We can do it early in the year. That's fine.
Okay.
January, yeah. We can add it. We can add a tab to our website. We can blog about it. We can do all kinds of things. Link to it on our GitHub page. All kinds of stuff.
Great. Yeah, I mean, just looking at, they say that really by the 15th is sort of the last kind of moment where before the end of the year, you want to get things out before then, or else people miss it because of they're out of office or they're whatever. So, okay, after start of the year.
Yeah.
Good deal. Yeah, so oh, this was a reminder. Leia's out today, but she just reminded us that the tag election is open to vote. I think we already voted. I don't actually know that, so we did a vote recently, so I'll go double check. I think we voted. So we'll be announcing, I suppose, soon, anybody who was selected from the W3C election. I think we'll also may have some friends who are going to be serving in leadership roles at ECMA that will be announced at their meeting next week. And so this is also sort of another good moment in time for you to think about your affiliations and your participation in different groups for next year. If you want to consider being an OpenJS representative to one of our liaison orgs, let us know. Thanks for the reminder, Leia. Well timed. Cool. Is there any other, I mean, we kind of rocketed through today, which is great. I love an efficient meeting, but also want to make space for any other business that the group may have today.
We said we would check on the statuses of AB nominations and see if we wanted to make any. There are 5 people already. My opinion, that's a good. So anyway, there will be an election. There's some, great candidates like Wendy Reed, Tantek Chalik, Elika Atamad, somebody from China. Mike Prorock, who's really stepped up on the AC lately. So I don't feel any need to compete with any of them. I mean, one time I was thinking if we got some, won't name names, but some people who I thought would not want to see on there just slip in without being elected. But that's not the case. There's definitely going to be an election. There's some good candidates. I see no reason for us to beat the bushes or twist your arm, Jory.
So that's a great reminder. Is there, what, do you remember the deadline for that? It's like coming up,
Tomorrow,
right?
the
It's
30th.
tomorrow, yeah. So those sound like really good candidates. So I guess we'll be casting a ballot soon for.
Yeah, we can talk and, next time about who we want to actually vote for, but it's one of those, it's hard to rank. It's going to be hard to rank people's, but there's some really obvious, people who are well aligned with what we're trying to do here. So I'm happy. Nobody's twisting my arm to run, since I don't get paid to do that anymore. Yeah, I don't know. Toby was looking for sponsors. I presume he hasn't gotten any since we haven't heard from him.
That is one of those, and I think that, like, I think the AB is a great example of how useful a group is and in open source and can be, right? And they're not paid, right? That's like almost another, those folks really dedicate a lot of time and energy to W3C community and process and helping the working groups. And it's hard work. It's not always,
Yeah, back in the day, Microsoft paid me to spend, a very good chunk of my time at that. But they laid off everybody who ever did that kind of work in the last couple of years. So, or allowed to retire. But yeah, it's just not well, it's partly the rise of open source. You can have Microsoft's calculation was they could have a bigger technical impact for the salary dollar by contributing engineers who would drive implementations rather than, project managers who would drive specifications. So.
Well, I have a whole theory that it's the pendulum is going to swing back the other way, but that's maybe, not.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't bet against that.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the last couple of years, it's been hard to find big companies who want to pay, the senior level salaries, quarter time or whatever to do this kind of work.
So here's another interesting guide we could make. You just made me think of this, Mike. Maybe for our next guide, we could do a concise guide to like careers in open source and in open standards. Like I think that's a space where it's not super well understood. So
yeah,
I think that'd be a good one.
Again, you're saying it's periodic. I mean, 15 years ago when I was just getting started at Microsoft, there was a standards career track, and that somehow evaporated, and then there's just nobody who's doing that work anymore, as far as I know.
We'll bring it back.
Yeah. So we'll be ready for the next
right
swing of the pendulum. Yeah, I mean, it does make a lot of sense that if there's only one implementation of a spec, because it's in an open source project, then it makes sense for the collaboration to be about what the code is supposed to do, not how the code actually operates. So I can easily see this swinging back.
Yeah, I think it will. So let's make a guide for the folks who want to do a career track, and and I think also the careers in open source is another thing that's shifted slightly, where before I think, well, at least when I kind of grew up on this, it was the case that there were a lot of small agencies like the company that I worked at doing open source and maintaining open source projects like Grunt as both a open source service, but also, is a part of like, our business. And I think that's not as common anymore, a pattern. So sort of interesting how that's shifting.
Well, Galia is sort of an exception, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say like Agalia it was one of those that sort of made it. Yeah, that kind of and there's grown. But they did it, I think, by really focusing on the niche open source like browser engine compiler.
Yeah, that's a good point. They looked for what the gaps between the implementations are and said, hey, we'll happily fill them for X amount of money, and people stepped up to do that, to get features written for Safari or whatever.
Yeah, I think there'd be a lot of interest. I blogged about this after my Grace Hopper experience working the booth on the floor. And there's a lot of people who know how to use open source technologies, but they don't know how the sausage is made, right? And the consensus model and the collaboration piece. It's just, just not really, it's not what they're taught. I talked to some of the professors on the ground as well. They don't really teach that at computer science universities either.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's something I've always sort of thought I might dabble with in my retirement.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But yeah, anyway, thanks for the nudge.
Yeah.
Was needed. That reminds me of a book that I've started to read.
Bring back the book club,
I know we
Jory.
need to bring book club in 2023. It's kind of an old book. It's Democratizing Innovation by Eric von Hippel, and it kind of gets to it's maybe like 10 years old at this point, but I think a lot of the ideas about how open source and open standards sort of drive like democratic cooperative innovation is really really good. I just started it, so, and it's short though, so I'll be able to, like, comparative to all the other crap that I recommend to y'all, which is like 500 pages. So oh yeah, Luke's just got it in there, so great. So, okay, that's, I think it for, this is definitely the end of the agenda because now I'm talking about books that I read. So, anything else before we conclude for today? If not, we'll see everybody on the standard Slack and at our December 13 meeting, unless folks let us know that you won't be able to make it. All right.